Before we begin, thank you very much for joining my Patreon campaign. I am not kidding. Someone used the shout out intro as their name on Patreon, and it's probably the funniest you people have gotten so far with the weird shout outs. There's your bar, everyone. Everyone looking to jump the bar. That's where we're at right now. So thank you very much for a fun one. So again, thank you guys so much for the support. Yeah, we officially, Patreon at the beginning of the month is always weird. It reports a lot less on the numbers than it actually is. So right now, last I checked, we were definitely over 700 when we crossed the first of the month, meaning all of Transformers Prime is going to get reviewed. Every single episode and the movie. And thank you guys so much for the support for that. Next level, 800 a month means we're going to be adding... I was going to do Transformers Animated, but I don't know. I might switch things up because I don't want to go from one long series into another long series. I might find a short one to throw in instead. Most like maybe. I still want it to be instead. For now, assume it's going to be Transformers Animated added to the review queue. All right. So, we haven't done Kamen Rider in a hot minute. So let's talk, because something super cool happened. So, for context, I've been into Kamen Rider for like a good 15 years now. I first started watching when I was following Super Sentai fan subs, and I saw Go Onger. And Go Onger was fine. I was enjoying watching it, but it was so cartoony and so kiddie. I thought to myself, okay, I need something to cut this with. I need something to mix in that's like a step up in maturity and something that's just gonna like kind of like blend this a little bit better. So the Superhero Time promos that showed you the two Toei Tokusatsu series for the year was showing this super awesome looking design. It's this masked, hero character with this like really heavy metal armor, chains wrapped around his armor, the sharp eyes and the fangs on the mouth. Like, oh my god, he looks so freaking cool. It's Kamen Rider Kiva, and I've been hooked in ever since. So to spend 15 years as a Kamen Rider fan, surviving off of fan subs and the very meager scraps that Toei gives us, and what they call, their very poor attempts at pushing into the West, to get to this point where I could actually go to a movie theater and not even like drive to a major city, but like go to like a conveniently located movie theater and actually sit down and watch a Kamen Rider movie right in my little town is kind of amazing to me. Like, literally, like, I never thought Kamen Rider would reach this point. I knew it deserved to, but I never actually thought we would get there. So understand, going into this movie was a completely surreal experience for me. So, already really cool. And I went with a friend who I got into Kamen Rider. So like that was super cool to have someone to watch it with. So, the movie itself. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about spoiler territory. So I'm going to hop around a lot. So if you don't want spoilers for the movie, why'd you click on a review for it? For starters, I know you're trying to find out if it's good or not, okay? I will tell you that overall, yes, I would call it good. I liked it. Now, everything after that, we're going to have to go into spoilers as to why I say I like it. Because everything after that gets a little bit explainy and spoilery. So, if you just want my confirmation, if you just trust my opinion on Tokusatsu and Kamen Rider, I'd say, yeah, like, when it's on streaming, give it a watch. If it comes out on home video, or DVD, or DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, please, by all means, go see it. Pick it up. It's worth it for a Kamen Rider fan. If only for the fact that it's so rare for us to get something like that in America. However, so... this was weird. This is a really weird experience leaving the movie. And like seeing the response it was getting, because a bunch of people on my timeline went to see the movie. Of course they did. I follow a bunch of Kamen Rider geeks. And everyone came back saying they absolutely loved the movie. That the people they took to the movie with them absolutely loved the movie. The people who didn't know what Kamen Rider was loved the movie. Um, and I kind of sat back and just kind of looked. And like looked at all these like glowing responses to Shin Kamen Rider. And then I kind of sit back and go, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong to like the movie. Like it didn't seem like I'm like in the minority here because I only liked the movie. You know, I went to Hobbylink Japan after I got home from the movie and I checked, and yeah, both versions of the Typhoon Belt were available. And I sat there kind of debating which one I would actually rather have. Okay, the colors are better on Nigo's. Ichigo's is, they got more detail to it. They kind of make the same sound effects. And I sat there like debating and mulling over these two belts. And I didn't get either. You know how weird it is for me to watch something Kamen Rider that I can say, yeah, I liked it. And then to look at the merch for it and go, I'm good. It's weird. It's very weird. It's very weird for me. It's different for me. So what happened? Like, what is it about this movie where, like, I'm the only one, like, I'm the big Kamen Rider geek that wasn't huge on it? So the movie itself kind of plays like a fast forward of like the first third of like or like even like the first quarter of the original Kamen Rider series. There's a lot of homages, a lot of like the classic characters making like returns and, you know, as newly rebooted versions of the characters. And overall, like it tells kind of a similar story. It's way more mature now, give it that, and it's way more modernized, but ultimately it kind of flows the same. Hongo is experimented on by Shocker. He's turned into a grasshopper Og, which he renames himself Kamen Rider. Everyone in this series, no one is really a monster in this movie. All of them are called Ogs, augments. And all of them kind of had the same motif of just like a leather or lightly armored suit, and then a masked helmet that they wear. So technically everyone in this movie kind of has a little bit of a Rider vibe to them. Some of them even wear stylized, belts. We have one at the end that actually uses the phrase henshin. Things like that. And it's weird. It's weird. So a lot of it there's a lot of like tradition nods to it. Just to name off a few, like aside from the fact we brought back a lot of the characters from the original series, just reworked. We didn't find out till the end of the movie that Tachibana was in it. But we've also got things like the first monster is the Spider Og, and the second is the Bat Og. That follows Kamen Rider tradition. When Ichigo and Nigo confront each other, they actually have a fight because Nigo is still under Shocker brainwashing in this one. And Ichigo gets his leg broken. That's a reference to how Ichigo had to be written out of the original Kamen Rider. To work in the actor's legitimate motorcycle injury into a story in the movie is kind of interesting. Random and weird, but interesting. And yeah, like we kind of fast forward all the way to like where like this Nigo, Ichimoji, is actually kind of like the main thing of the whole movie. And it's so weird. It's like it felt like I was watching like 8 episodes of a series that never got produced, just all kind of crammed together and rushed through. It's a very fast-paced movie as a result. Like there's not a lot of fat on the movie. Like it's a very solid block of stuff going on. But it also feels like things happen just for the sake of them happening. Like the Bat Og, the story to Bat Og doesn't really go anywhere. You could literally just chop it out of the movie, and I don't think you'd lose anything. At worst, I think the only thing that really accomplishes is showing how our female protagonist, Ruriko, I think the only thing that accomplishes is showing how well she prepares for certain situations. That being every situation. Yeah, and besides that, it just feels like we hit beat to beat to beat, monster to monster to monster. There's no time in between to breathe or really kind of get familiar with the characters. Familiarization with the characters comes in very small bursts at very small times. We have little flashbacks of Hongo before he became a Kamen Rider, because the movie jumps straight into that. We immediately cut into him having a very bloody battle with some Shocker agents. And I mean, aside from just the brutality of it, that's, like, that's it. Like, we don't get like a backstory. We don't get to see how he was captured by Shocker. We don't know why he was chosen by Shocker. Nothing like that. We don't get any kind of like, we get little bits of flashback to kind of show like a motivation as to why he would want these powers to become a hero. The big struggle for him during the movie is that the system that he is wearing, drives up his survival instinct to the point where he becomes incredibly violent. Like, he has to cope with the fact that he's murdering people. They're beyond, well, I was gonna say they're beyond saving, but even like that's how they kind of explain it. Like early on, is that like they're beyond saving, so we might as well like handle them. But that's kind of proven to be false later in the movie, because what turns out to be the main villain is someone where they basically beat him by making him change his mind. So there's that. Weird things like that. So character wise, I don't know where Hongo comes from, and I have very little to his motivations. He seems kind of just, he really just kind of seems stoic. Like the only thing we really know about him in the movie is he's got a motor, like he has a motorcycle hobby. He's very well decorated, but not employed. No one hires him. So he's at least smart and he's capable. He likes his motorcycles and he likes camping out when he's on the road on a motorcycle. That's pretty much all I get of his personality. Other than that, it's his struggles with the suit. And once he conquers those, it's mostly just like guiding him from action sequence to action sequence until the end of the movie. And then Ruriko's kind of the same way. We get little bits of her backstory as we go, but like we're like straight into who she is. And for most of the movie, she is just ice cold. Like super stern, serious personality. There's no like room for wiggle in her. There's no, like, we see later on that there are layers to the character. We deal with a wasp og, which is the closest thing she had to a friend. And now the whole scene with the wasp og is great. I do think they artificially stretched it out into 2 encounters when it really could have been 1. Ironically enough, this movie that felt like they like sped through a lot of stuff had a few moments where it felt like things were kind of artificially stretched out, or things that one og could have accomplished was told with 2 ogs. Things like that that kind of started getting on my nerves. By the way, there's a scorpion og in there too. There's the whole scene with the scorpion og and all that is literally just to explain the existence of the bullet that kills wasp og. That's literally it. I mean, it's only like a 5-minute thing from the movie, but like it's weird because there's no point. You literally could have gotten the same accomplishment by just saying, hey, while they're fighting the bad og, just having the Tachibana and who was the other one? Taki. Having Tachibana and Taki just go, hey, our agents have taken taken out the scorpion og. We didn't need to wait for Hongo. And they start production, which is literally all he had to say. Then you could have cut that entire scene. So automatically, like, the pacing in the movie is very, very weird. And as I said, the characterization is very, very weird. We're just kind of thrown into characters without backstory or without kind of like getting to know them first. And getting to know them comes in bursts. Once Wasp Og is killed, Ruriko starts to show some actual emotion and character. She actually cries on Hongo's shoulder. She starts getting upset because they're kind of like in this like safe room setup while they're like dealing with with Tachibana and Taki. And she starts getting upset because she doesn't have change of clothes. Hongo's been in his rider's suit for days, apparently. So like things like that. It's I just wish I had more backstory. I wish she had more like character to her, because she really only starts showing character for like the last 15 minutes of her screen time. Everything after that is she reappears in recordings where there's a little bit to her, but it's still just like I don't know. I don't know. Like I mean I didn't get a good enough impression of her to really like her as a character. I mean, it's only toward the end that she started showing some signs of like mature, like depth, and that was cut way too short. That's another thing in the movie. That's another thing about the movie is like it feels like the movie is way too keen on just killing off characters. So, like I said, like I'm not holding back on spoilers on this one. Ruriko dies, and it feels like the only real reason is to just drive Hongo to do something he was gonna do already. Like I don't feel like it added to the story. It added to how they defeated the main bad guy, but it also still just kind of felt like a little bit of like negativity the movie didn't need, because it's already a super serious movie, you know. And then at the end, Hongo dies, which again is to kind of like just kind of push the tragedy in the movie, and it didn't feel necessary at all. Like that just kind of felt like you cut yourself off from a sequel. Not that they technically did, because Ichimoji is still in existence, and I understand if we're going by the original Kamen Rider series, he was the more popular one. It's why when it's why when Hongo came back into the series, he still stepped back from it and let Ichimoji Nigo finish the series, because he was the more popular one back in the day. And honestly, I liked him better in this movie. Like, he showed more personality than Hongo. He actually showed some different sides to him. Hongo just kind of felt like, I'm going to stare straight ahead of the camera while I take my mask off, and I'm going to be very serious about what's going on. You know, and like the only time I really get some kind of feeling for like his sense of justice and his character is when he refuses to kill the Wasp Og. Like, his need to keep Ruriko's one friend alive outweighs what the Hopper system is doing to him to drive his aggression. So he can actually fight it off for her sake, to keep her from being sad or upset. That's the one point where I kind of felt like I knew who Hongo was. And I really don't think we got enough of that. I think we needed it before we saw him as a Kamen Rider, and I think we need to see it later on. Beyond that, it just felt like when Hongo dies, I don't feel anything for him. And I don't think it's just me just being like jaded and callous and cold, because I've been through so many man tears with Kamen Rider as it is. I just feel like I didn't get the chance to be attached to him, because he didn't really show me a reason to be attached. Like, I didn't have a good feel for who he was, because we just rushed through fight after fight after fight after fight, Og after Og after Og after Og. It's almost like a series of Kamen Rider episodes where you cut out all the stuff that isn't fights, you know, and just made it super serious and cut out all the stuff that would give you the characterization. That kind of felt lacking to me. Now, if you've seen Shin Godzilla, it does kind of feel similar to that. There's a lot of talking scenes in this movie where it's just characters talking very seriously to each other with very monotone voices. And that's a lot of what Shin Godzilla is. The difference is Shin Godzilla has a very real situation happening, whereas Kamen Rider obviously is having a very fantasy situation. Well, they're both fantasy situations, but you're dealing with fantasy situations between people who all have superpowers, and then just humans trying to deal with the giant monster disaster. And that being more down to earth means I can kind of get away with like everyone being super serious and just like talking a lot of talking. In Kamen Rider, it just doesn't work. Again, it just kind of felt like it kind of felt like writing out. It felt like an AI wrote this. It felt like an AI wrote this, because there's no like emotion to the characters or anything. It just kind of feels like this is what they need to say in order to get to the next part of the plot, and there's not going to be a whole bunch of deviation from that character-wise. So it was weird. It was a very weird feeling movie. And it was hard for me to get attached to characters. I liked Ichimonji, but again, that's because he showed more personality as him. He wasn't just stoic and stern. And again, I wish he was introduced earlier, and I wish we had a better introduction for him, because he just kind of shows up, hey, I'm with Shocker, and then Ruriko undoes the brainwashing and goes, wait, no, I'm not with Shocker. Let me blow up this AUG for you. And like, I mean, even then, like, it sets up where like a sequel where he could be the lead. And I kind of feel like this entire movie, if like he had a better spot in the movie, like he's a reporter, right? So if he just like shows up to the scene of all the AUG's like productions or everything they're trying to do, I mean, that seems like, he just kind of fit in and he just kind of flow along with the rest of the cast, but he doesn't. He just kind of shows up, and like if I didn't know better, I feel like this whole movie was set up to make him the big hero of like a Shin Kamen Rider franchise. But I don't know if that's happening either. Like they didn't beat the Shocker leader. They just beat a guy. They beat Ruriko's brother. He's just a guy who just happened to be really powerful. But they didn't beat the leader. So it just kind of felt like, like they just kind of stopped. Like the movie didn't reach a conclusion. It just kind of stopped. It's just the movie just stopped existing. Rather than having any kind of satisfying conclusion. There's other elements too. Like, I know I've been going long. I know I've been ranting about this, but me, Kamen Rider, I'm passionate about this stuff. There's elements like I said, there's an AUG that was like, that Ichimonji beat. I mean, he's a chameleon and mantis mix, and they kind of set him up as the twirling bad guy because he's one of the few that they like showed before a battle scene to kind of like build him up a little bit, and they didn't. He was just there for Ichimonji to kill. There's AI character. There's a robot character who was originally one version called J. And then when his original creator killed himself, why? I don't know. He upgraded to K, and the whole purpose of the AI was to seek peace for humanity, and that's what Shocker was supposed to be. But they seek peace for humanity in really creepy ways that take away freedom and life. So this is like misguided. It's a misguided AI, trying to follow its good programming, but ending up killing the people it's supposed to be protecting in the first place. We just had an AI incident like that in real life. That's good timing. Good timing, movie. So I kept expecting K to be this like weird linchpin where it's like, like him deciding what would truly make humanity happy is like what tips the balance with like the final villain, or that he was going to be the final villain and just like turn into some like monster robotic Kamen Rider. No. None of that happened. The character literally just existed to just stand there stoic for a few scenes, put a couple roses in his pocket, and leave. He added literally nothing. Again, it feels like half a movie. It feels like it's built up to something that's going to happen in a movie that's not going to be out for like another 3 years that we don't even have an announcement for. They didn't do a sequel to Shin Godzilla, as popular and money making as it was. I haven't heard of a sequel for it, so I've no real hopes for a sequel for this movie at this rate. Because he's moving on to like all the other Shin movies. So yeah, in what is basically just a rant of a review, that's kind of my thoughts for Shin Kamen Rider. Overall, yeah, I would say, yeah, I liked it. I was never bored while I was watching it, but I see a very weirdly paced movie. I see a movie that failed to introduce its characters before like asking me to be invested in them. I see a movie that didn't really have a way of satisfying concluding. And I see a movie that is so trapped in Showa's like psychological themes that it kind of forgot that it needed to be a fun for the audience. Keep in mind, the original Kamen Rider was all about tragedy. The what makes you a hero for humanity is also what separates you from humanity. You can save them, you can be their hero, but you can never rejoin them. And that theme is kind of like super in this movie, like very heavy in this movie, to the point where there's so much tragedy and not enough of the good that comes from suffering through that tragedy. I don't get to see the city being saved from the Augs. I don't get to see a civilian population that's been rescued. I don't get to see my hero walk off into the sunset and get the girl. I just see all these characters who asked me to be invested in die and put everything in the hands of two government type characters who really or went behind people's backs and like were very shady and not, not the heroes I really need. And Ichimonji, who is better, but still very improperly introduced. So I don't know what this movie is going for. I think they focus so heavy on getting the classic tragedy of Kamen Rider into the story that that's all there is. And it's imbalanced is what I would call it. It's an imbalanced movie with weird pacing. It's fun to watch. And I didn't even mention, the music is great. The fight scenes are incredible. The last fight scene's super weird because it's just two exhausted people rolling around on top of each other, and it's bizarre. It's not the final fight you would expect or want of a Kamen Rider, especially if you know modern Kamen Rider. It is what it is. But yeah, that's Shin Kamen Rider. I liked it, but where everyone kept saying they loved it, like, I don't see that. It's weird. Maybe it's just me. Maybe my preferences have just gone beyond this at this point. But honestly, I really wanted to like it more than I did. That's what it comes down to. So thank you for watching a very long movie review. I didn't realize I'd be ranting this long, but I had a lot to say. And I get the feeling I'm going to be in the minority on this one. But if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought in the comments below. And I will see you next time.
We're going to have to get your names for the books. You, Pale One.
William Current.
Roll me a deception check.
I thought their name was Pain.
Roll a disadvantage.
Okay.
That was like the opposite of the help action there. You, Goblin.
First name D's.
Watch your tongue.